American people's choice. All right, let's talk about all of this. Of course, foreign policy, domestic policy, and the rest with my panel who's with me right now. Republican Congressman Jake LaTurner and Democratic strategist Joy Chaney. Great to have you both with us. And I want to start with you, Joy. Just, all of that we've been wrapping up there, the endorsements that are that's pouring in, the congratulations that's pouring in for Donald Trump. This is now moving into the transition phase, and we are moving forward. I mean, how does this look to you as a Democrat strategist?
Thank God it is Joe Biden who will be leading the transition and not Donald Trump. Because if it were him, we saw what happened last time. He wouldn't even show up to the inauguration and did not have an effective transfer of power, and then sought to engage in an insurrection. So yes, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are good people, we're going to have a transition to a Trump administration that is peaceful, as it should be. And so I'm very proud about that as a Harris supporter.
What do you think of this, Congressman?
I think that there's going to be a peaceful transition of power. I thought that the vice president's speech today was good and forward-looking. And so they're going to have to work together. It's for the good of the country to make sure that there's a smooth transition. And I think it's going to happen. There's a lot of work to be done right now by the Trump people to make sure that they put the right people in the right places, because there is an enormous amount of work to be done.
Tell us a bit more about that work to be done, because, there are names being tossed around for cabinet positions. But really, this is about the work of a transition team to appoint so many people to federal offices, right? Absolutely.
There are a ton of positions that need to be confirmed. It's going to be done a lot easier because there's going to be Republican control of the Senate. And he's got to get the right people in place to achieve the policy goals that he set forth in the last 2 years on the campaign trail. And that is dealing with inflation in the economy, making sure that the American people have more money to spend in their own pocket, making sure that the regulatory environment is in place, fixing our broken immigration system and securing our southern border, making sure that our foreign policy isn't in total disarray, which it is right now under this administration. And so there is a ton of work to be done.
Okay. Before I ask you another question, Joy, I just want to point out to our viewers that the reason we have that screen up on the bottom there, that is southern Beirut. We've seen loud explosions there after residents were told to evacuate. And we understand that there were at least 2 Israeli airstrikes that hit southern Beirut. So we're keeping an eye on those images and what impact that might have, and getting more information in as it comes to us. Mm-hmm. But Joy, looking at what Kamala Harris has done so far, we saw her concession speech. She did, of course, she was gracious, and she had called President-elect Trump, yes, earlier to congratulate him. But she also made a very clear message to say our fight is not over.
Absolutely. Our fight is not over. 50%.
What does that fight look like now, then?
That fight looks like, look, over the next 2 years, we're going to have to continue honing our message, appealing to working class voters. We're going to have to try to get back the House and Senate, and then be prepared for 4 years from now.
Oh my gosh, you're already talking about the midterm elections in 2 years?
Absolutely. You only have to. We both worked in Congress. We know there's only 2 years. So we're going to be very focused on that as Democrats, making sure that we get the things done that we absolutely have to get done. We stop the nefarious things the Trump administration will be seeking to do. We work with him when we can. When we cannot, we will be fighting against it, and we will be preparing for the midterms.
It's not just messaging, if I may, to give advice to the Democrats. I'm sure you don't want it, but you need it in that it's not just messaging, it's policy. 2/3 of the American people think that we are on the wrong track. Biden has approval ratings in the 30s, and when asked of Vice President Harris, what would you do differently? She said nothing. She said nothing. So she had no message for the working class people in this country that are struggling right now. And you don't have to take my word for it. Take Bernie Sanders' word for it. He said today, it should come as no great surprise to the Democratic Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that working class people has abandoned them. The working class has abandoned the Democratic Party.
I think that we had to have a stronger, I think our policies did work for working class people, but we did not message them. And that is our fault. So when you have policies that are good, when you've done things for people, we talked about Infrastructure Week ad nauseum with Donald Trump. He never got it done. We were able to get that done during a Biden administration. We were able to lower the cost of prescription drugs. We did not sell it in the way that we should have. We did not speak to people in a way that resonated with them. We did not effectively share our vision of America in a way that they saw themselves in it. And I do believe it's not just the economy. There's a lot of racism and misogyny that we're going to have to unpack as a nation. But I can't deal with that right now, right? Okay. As a Black woman, I've done enough. But what we do have to work on,
I don't know what that means.
Still talking. But what yours wasn't for you. But what I will say is this. We have to focus on making sure everyone sees themselves in our vision. We have to talk and message what we're doing, and they have to understand it. And when we create an economic policy, people have to feel it in not just the macro, but the micro, their individual tabletop issues.
A response,
Identity politics needs to come to an end.
We need an politics are white men.
Let me finish now.
I'm sorry.
We need an uplifting message that speaks to all Americans, and that's the difference between the Trump-Harris campaign. The Harris campaign did the typical Democrat strategy, which is say certain things to certain groups of people to get them to coalesce. Donald Trump spoke to all Americans because working class people, regardless of race, regardless of gender, are struggling with the same things, which are inflation, which are...
Sure they are, but the way that he's spoken about immigrants, for example, or immigrant communities, and talking about the Haitian community in Springfield, Ohio, I mean, that wasn't exactly unifying.
I wouldn't choose to speak the way Donald Trump does about every topic. I'm not suggesting that, but to ignore... I let you finish, but to ignore that we have a broken immigration system and that the southern border is wide open. It's part of the reason Kamala Harris lost yesterday is because the Biden administration, up until the last few months, has not talked about this issue in a serious way, and the American people see that.
The Biden administration did, however, try to have an immigration bill in your candidate.
I just want to get just one quick thought more from both of you. What does this next phase look like then for Donald Trump as he's preparing, Congressman, to take the White House again, as he's preparing to enter the White House again, excuse me. What do you think his priority is on day one?
I think on day one, it is doing everything that he can with his executive power. So making the appointments that he wants, the nominations that he wants, changing executive orders to the extent that he can. I think that it's a function of a broken Congress that we have so many executive orders. Right. We need to pass legislation and get that done. But he's going to have a tall order on day one because he can fix immigration problems immediately. He can affect foreign policy
with executive orders. And really quickly, Joy, for Democrats?
I agree with that. I mean, he's going to be focused on executive orders. Okay. He's going to be focused on, frankly, dismantling civil servants, which is unfortunate. And I think that the people he's hired are going to implement Project 2025. So if you elected him, you elected that.
We'll talk more about that in a little bit. We'll be back with you guys shortly. Thank you.